There is no bigger story tonight than this.
A relief for the Senate, and we hope that this is a fresh start. Sen Win is most deserving and most qualified.
Time to get back to work. That's the resounding message of the new majority bloc after a shakeup in the upper chamber never seen before. For Alan Peter Cayetano, what happened this afternoon was plain illegal. He says, "I am still the legitimate moral Senate President of the Republic of the Philippines." But for Malacanang and the House leadership, what senators did was right, throwing their support behind acting Senate President Win Gatchalian.
Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon. Another colorful day for the Senate. Today's plenary session finally pushed through after a 12th senator, Chis Escudero, suddenly appeared in plenary. The shakeup that followed was just unprecedented. The big story tonight from mobile journalist Daniel Dayaw.
For a third consecutive day, Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano and his majority bloc were still a no-show in plenary session. But the minority bloc did not wait in vain this time around. At around 3:20 p.m. on Wednesday, June 3rd, Majority Member Senator Chis Escudero suddenly turned up. His visibly surprised colleagues warmly greeted the former Senate President to the floor, shook hands with him, even embraced him, amid rousing applause all around. At that point, Senator Win Gatchalian immediately went to the rostrum and signaled the resumption of session.
The 69th session of the Senate in the first regular session of the 20th Congress is hereby called to order. Let us pause for a minute of silent prayer.
However, Senate Secretary Jose Luis Montales, a known ally of still absent SP Alan Peter Cayetano, declined to do the roll call, so the Deputy Senate Secretary took charge.
With 12 senators present, the chair declares a quorum.
Senator Tito Soto then declared all posts vacant, a move that got unanimous approval. Senators proceeded to elect Gatchalian Senate President pro tempore. As the most senior among senators present, Soto administered the oath to Gatchalian.
That I will well and faithfully discharge to the best of my ability the duties of my present position and of all others I may hereafter hold under the Republic of the Philippines, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the Philippines. So help me God.
From here, senators reinstated Attorney Ray Bantug as Senate Secretary, while Police Major General Alfredo Soto Corpuz is appointed new Senate Sergeant-at-Arms. Then, new committee chairpersons were introduced. Soto for the National Defense Committee, replacing Senator Jinggoy Estrada. Senator Erwin Tulfo for the powerful Blue Ribbon Committee, Vice Senator Pia Cayetano. Senator Raffy Tulfo is back as Public Services Committee Chair, in place of Senator Rodante Marcoleta, while Senator Bamaquino also regained the Basic Education Committee from Senator Loren Legarda. Senator Risa Ontiveros is head again of the Health Committee, earlier assigned to Senator Bongo, while Zaviri replaced Senator Aimee Marcos as Foreign Relations Committee Chair. Senator J.V. Ejercito is now at the helm of the Committee on Finance, Vice Senator Mark Villar. And Senator Lito Lapid takes the Game and Amusement Committee from Senator Jinggoy Estrada. Senator Ping Lacson is back as Public Order and Dangerous Drugs Committee Chair, which had been given the still missing and ICC wanted Senator Bato de la Rosa. Lacson is also chairperson of the Committee on Accounts, while Senator Erwin Tulfo is back at the Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development Committee. Senator Kiko Pangilinan also got back the Committee on Agriculture, Food and Agrarian Reform. Senator Chis Escudero is retained as Committee Chair on Urban Planning, Housing and Resettlement, and Subiri, the Committee on Rules. Before the session adjourned, Senate President pro tempore and acting SP Win Gatchalian explained that they had to convene the session today. That's because 3 days of no session without the consent of the lower house will be considered a constitutional offense.
The Senate has been adjourned and unable to resume session for the past 2 days, placing us on the brink of constitutional violation had we not convened today. In the absence of a duly consulted postponement and the continued absence of the former Senate President pro tempore, and members of the majority, we are compelled to call the session to order. The quorum of 12 is based on majority of 22 senators, over whom jurisdiction can be obtained by the Senate. This is in full accord with the ruling of the Court in Avellino versus Cuenco that an absolute majority of 12 out of the 23 members can constitute a constitutional majority of the Senate for quorum purposes. And with precedent, specifically the May 5, 2015 session, where the quorum was based on 17 available senators, with 7 others beyond the Senate's coercive jurisdiction.
Senator Erwin Tulfo, the new majority spokesperson, agrees that because Senator Bato de la Rosa went in hiding and Senator Jingo Estrada is in jail, it can only be considered that there are only 22 senators. Thus, 12 constituted a quorum.
Ngayon, meron tayong functioning Senate na.
Apa.
Ang gusto namin, bumalik na sa trabaho. Hindi tayo pwedeng ganito for the rest of our lives. Ang dami nakabindi na legislation. So, kailangan magtrabaho.
Meantime, the 12th Senator Escudero said in a statement that his attendance today isn't about a political change of heart. He just believes they cannot remain in a situation where their ability to perform their duties is affected. Escudero adds that the current impasse in the Senate now is untenable and unacceptable. He said when political divisions become too extreme and obstruct our mandate, they must all have the courage to pause, gain perspective, reflect, consider, and realize that they should put the institution they serve above themselves. Kapatid Mobile Journal, Daniel Dayaw, We Are One News.
Embattled Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano immediately protested what the minority senators did, calling it an illegal coup d'etat.
Actually po, hindi nila ako tinanggal. Naglagay ng acting. Senator Win, Lucian, ingat kayo dyan. You're playing around with fire. This is not just about the Senate. This is about the Philippine Constitution. So wala pong ground para magkaroon ng acting president. This is an illegal coup d'etat na may kasamang pagbabasura ng ating konstitusyon. I warned everyone about this from day one. We warned everyone yesterday when we explained the use of the parliamentary tool of not having a quorum.
Cayetano insists that per Senate rules, the SP can only be replaced by virtue of resignation, removal, death, or absolute incapacity. He accused the minority of connivance to control the Senate premises and block the Blue Ribbon Committee's hearings resumption tomorrow. He also lamented how this could affect the timeline of the impeachment trial against Vice President Sara Duterte.
Alam niyo po, madidelay po ang impeachment sapagkat pag pinitan ang rules ay kailangan pa ho na magkaroon ng publication. So pati po ang ating mga arrangement ngayon magbabago. Instead of a simple adjournment sine die, kung saan meron tayong isang buwan na magtrabaho mga committee, pagkatapos uumpisa na natin ang impeachment, they're going to bring the Senate and the country into a political crisis. But tomorrow, tuloy ang hearing ng Blue Ribbon Committee. I am still the legitimate, legal, moral Senate President of the Republic of the Philippines.
But for Senator Ping Lacson, Cayetano is no longer the SP. He quoted the case of Avellino versus Cuenco, where the Supreme Court recognized that a quorum of 12 is determined based on the number of members legally able to discharge the functions of the Senate. That's why they voted to declare all positions vacant. But Senator Lacson also acknowledged they could not yet elect a new Senate president because they lack the 13 votes required under the Constitution. And joining us tonight is someone who knows the Senate from inside and out, four-time SP, Franklin Drilon. Good evening, sir, and welcome back to The Big Story.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me once again.
Senator Alan Peter Cayetano says he is still the legitimate, legal, and moral Senate president, and that this afternoon's reorganization was an illegal coup d'etat. Is he correct?
Before I answer the question of whether he's correct or wrong, at this point, Alan is like a king without a kingdom, because all the Senate committees are now under the control of the majority headed by Win Gatsalian. And therefore, he is a lame duck for all practical purposes. Wala na pong susunod sa kanya. Okay, now having said that, it's about time that this impasse be resolved because the impasse is already affecting public interest. Bills are not passed because of the impasse in the leadership. So it was to the public interest that the impasse be resolved. There can be there is no doubt that legal issues will be raised, but there is a precedent on this in the Senate, and it involved me personally.
Yes, yes. Recall that time for us, May 5, 2015, as cited by Senator Gatchalian. Tell us about it.
Well, at that time, out of the 24 members of the Senate, 4 were abroad and 3 were not were in the custody of the police for offenses for which they were for cases that they were facing. Therefore, out of the 24, 7 senators were out of reach. Is that within the reach of the Senate? Because 4 were abroad and 3 were under the custody of the police authorities. Therefore, we considered as membership 17 and based the quorum on 17 senators, not on any other number, because 17 are the senators who are not under the control of the authorities, nor are they abroad. In other words, they are free to attend. They are capable of attending the Senate, and therefore, for purposes of precedent, there is a precedent in so far as the Senate is concerned, and I was the Senate president at that time. Of course, there's another precedent, Avelino Cuenco case, wherein the Supreme Court ruled that the quorum should be determined on the basis of members of the legislature who are actually available, who are excluding those who are beyond the reach of the institution, like if abroad, or if you are under the custody of the police authorities. So there are legal precedents that can be cited by the new majority, and says a principle in law is the presumption of regularity in the performance of one's functions for the better order of governance, so that there is a presumption of regularity in what happened today insofar as change of leadership is concerned. Until that, what happened today is voided by the Supreme Court, it enjoys the presumption of regularity, and the public can act accordingly and recognize the need or the validity of the Senate action starting tomorrow.
Okay. Senator Drilon, is the Senate presidency vacant, or because this is the contention of Senator Lacson, or is the Senator Cayetano still hold the position because he cannot be replaced since they need 13 votes?
The position of the group of Senator Gatsalian is that only 12 votes are needed to declare all positions vacant. And that's exactly what they did. They declared all the positions in the Senate, from the Senate President to the Senate President pro tempore, to all the chairman of the committees, to the membership in the committees. All of those were declared vacant by a vote of only 12, because 12 is the quorum and the majority.
Okay.
Now, Beyond that, in so far as the Senate President is concerned, they had to produce 13 because that's what the Constitution requires. 13 majority of all the members of the Senate, which is 24, and therefore they must produce 13. They only had 12 and therefore could not elect Gatsalian as the regular Senate President. And therefore what they did was to consider Gatsalian as an acting Senate President, considering that he was elected as pro tempore and the position of Senate President has become vacant.
In your case, in 2015, there was no challenge to what you did. It was not brought before the Supreme Court or...
No, there was no challenge. No challenge when that transpired. But indeed, it is a precedent insofar as Senate practices and rules are concerned.
Okay. Senator Drilon, the Secretariat did not want to call the roll earlier. Was that also within the practice of the Senate?
I did not witness that particular episode, says I'm sorry.
Okay, so the Senate Secretary did not call the roll, and so they had to ask the assistant, the second in rank, to do it. What was the significance of the refusal?
Nothing legally, nothing that creates a legal infirmity. Anybody could call the roll. The Senate President or the Majority Leader can call the roll. It is just by tradition that the Secretary of the Senate, being a civil servant, is given that authority. And that is because at the start of a Congress, there is no duly elected, at the opening of the session, the secretary opens the session because there is no the elected representatives have not yet assumed office. But to repeat my answer, anybody can call the roll in this particular case.
All right. Now, the king without a kingdom has issued just now a memo instructing the Senate staff that the hearing of the Blue Ribbon Committee will proceed tomorrow. How do we now, what happens now when he insists and other senators, now the minority, insist on holding this hearing, troop to the Senate tomorrow morning?
It happened during my time also. It was not only in the committee, but in the Senate itself, when there was a wrap session, and if I recall correctly, it was Senator Blas Ople who was elected Senate President, replacing me. And we did not recognize the session. We called it a wrap session, and because of that, we directed the Secretariat not to record the proceedings. And that can be done tomorrow if, in fact, the Blue Ribbon hearing takes place. The Senate Secretariat, who is under the control of the majority and the Senate President, will be directed not to provide administrative services. So there's no official record of what will transpire. So they can hold the hearing.
Senator,
No.
of course, they
No.
won't know who to
There's no-
follow.
There is no
They'll be
dilemma.
afraid.
There is no dilemma. There is no dilemma because there is a presumption of regularity. The officers led by Win Gatsalian can assume control and provide the direction.
So it's possible a rump, well, not session, but hearing can be held, but it won't be official.
That's correct insofar as official records are concerned. It did not take place because the staff, there is no record of what transpired.
Now, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano also said that this will delay the impeachment because of changes in the rules. Will it?
I don't really know what he was referring to, which rule he was referring to. But in fact, there is no provision in the Constitution or in the Constitution that it must be the Senate President who should preside over an impeachment trial of the Vice President. The only instance that the Constitution specifies the presiding officer is in the impeachment of the president, where the chief justice is specifically designated by the Constitution to be the presiding officer. Only, I repeat that, only in the impeachment trial of the president. The rest, no such rule. Of course, the Senate rules, I think, provides that the Senate president is the presiding officer, shall preside over the impeachment trial, but that's a rule which can be changed by the Senate, because that is an internal rule of the Senate and not a substantive law which has to be amended.
But when the Senate returns on July 6, it will be the start of the impeachment trial. And with the vacancy of the Senate presidency, how will it now function?
The Senate will not return because the Senate, by by the legislative calendar, will adjourn sine die on Friday, the 5th of June. And when come July 6, it will be the impeachment court will hold a trial. The Senate will not hold a session.
I see. So how now, without with the Senate presidency vacant, who will open the trial? How will it go?
Well, in the same manner that the question is raised on tomorrow's Blue Ribbon Committee, the same issues should be resolved in order to allow or to enable the impeachment court to follow. In other words, the impeachment court will be called to order by the Senate President. In this case, the acting Senate President is Win Gatchalian.
What can the new minority do to scuttle the proceedings?
Go to court and get an injunction. I mean, that's the remedy available to them.
However, the court has shown judicial restraint, particularly in the 1949 case of Avellino and Cuenco, where they did not really delve into the internal rules of the Senate. Am I right, Senator?
That's correct. They considered the issue as involving a political question, the resolution of which is better left to the political agencies of government, in this case, the Senate. So the ruling was, we will not interfere in the case because it involves a political question which pertains to the organization of the Senate.
So once again, the start of the impeachment trial, part 2, has been thrown into question. Is that the correct conclusion to make?
I have to admit that questions will be raised. Questions will be raised, but to me, it's better to have questions raised. There is a presumption of regularity. Let's proceed with the work. Let them go to the Supreme Court, or let the case be brought to the Supreme Court, and we continue with the work until the Supreme Court says otherwise. That's how our bureaucracy functions. You cannot stop work in the bureaucracy, or for that matter, in this particular case, in the impeachment court, because questions are raised on its validity. As I will repeat, for better order, there is a presumption of legality in what happened, and let those who are questioning validity of what transpired go to the courts, and until the courts decide otherwise, we proceed with the legal structure that results from this conflict, because otherwise, to rule otherwise would bring us back to a situation we did not want, and that is an impasse in the trial of the impeachment court.
We can't help but think, was this part of the grand plan after all, to somehow prevent it from happening? I'm referring to the impeachment trial. To
I
create
don't.
this chaos and
There is chaos, there is instability, but it is the necessary result of politics. Is the result of the election contest in 2028. So all of that come into play, and we are in this situation where questions are raised. But this is not the first time that this has happened in our political history. If you look at our case books, case history, there are a number of cases, some of which are already being cited today. But that's democracy. We should not be surprised that in a society where people are free, questions will be raised. But that strengthens us, in my mind, rather than weakens our system.
so in your assessment, we could say all's well that ends well, that now we have a functioning Senate, and we're no longer, witnessing a deadlock.
That is correct. In other words, instead of a situation of an impasse, now you have, at least we are moving. It is the right of the other side to question, but there is a mechanism under our system, which is the Supreme Court, which will adjudicate this conflict. But we have to move. And what the Senate today, and particularly Senator Chis Escudero, did was something that public interest required. Otherwise, you will be you'll be stuck with a 11 deadlock, which has never happened in history. So it is best that it be resolved, not a perfect solution, certainly, because there are questions raised, but that it allows the system to function is something that we all desire to happen.
We thank you for your wisdom and sharing your insights with us, former Senate President Franklin Drilon. You're watching The Big Story in One News. When we return, we have more reactions to the Senate shakeup today.
Ang nangyari sa Senado ngayong hapon ay naaayon sa batas at rule of law. Kinikilala at nirerespeto ng palasyo ang desisyon ng bagong mayorya at ang liderato ni Acting Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian.
Now there's Senator Cheese Escudero turning up at plenary at past 3 this afternoon on the last session day before the Sinodie adjournment. His presence as Senator number 12 enabled the former minority bloc to have a quorum. You're still watching the big story here on One News. Malacanang has officially recognized the new Senate leadership. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro believes that transition in the upper chamber took place according to the rule of law.
Ang nangyari sa Senado ngayong hapon ay naaayon sa batas at rule of law. Kinikilala at nirerespeto ng palasyo ang desisyon ng bagong mayorya at ang liderato ni Acting Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian.
The House of Representatives has also acknowledged Gatchalian as acting Senate President. Speaker Boji D welcomed the change at the upper chamber and expressed full support for the acting SP. D emphasized a fully functioning Senate is absolutely crucial to the country's legislative work, government oversight, and democratic governance. We're still making sense of what happened this afternoon at the Senate. Another question is, will the blue ribbon hearing tomorrow push through? Now let's ask mobile journalist Merimon Reyes. Merimon, have you spoken to the SecGen or the Cayetano camp or the Gatchalian camp about the hearing tomorrow?
Says, upon looking at the official website of the Senate of the Philippines, doon kasi nakalagay din yung schedule ng Senate committees, and we saw na yung originally scheduled tomorrow na Senate Blue Ribbon Committee under the chairmanship of Senator Pia Cayetano, under the leadership of former Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano, canceled na ang nakalagay. Pero sa huling live stream ni Senator Cayetano, inanunsyo niya pa rin na naglabas siya ng notice, and kanina nakita rin natin yung advisory na to keep the Senate premises open tomorrow because the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing will proceed as scheduled. Ito yung hearing na sinabi ni Senator Cayetano na si Senator Rodante Marcoleta ang magsisilbing man of the hour. And tomorrow daw ang pasabog nila dito ay yung pagtingin sa magiging direksyon ng investigasyon sa maanumalyang flood control projects or scandal. Whereas on the other hand naman, ang sinabi ni Senator Erwin Tulfo under the new majority and the leadership of Senate President pro tempore Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, yung hearing ng Blue Ribbon, it will take place Monday next week. So illegal yung magiging plan na ipagpapatuloy ito, and even yung resource persons yung nasa listahan, including yung ex-Marines na allegedly mga bagman ng kickbacks from flood control projects, hindi pa dito agree si Senator Tulfo, kaya kailangan daw nilang linisin at ayusin muna ang magiging pagdinig. As expected, or ang sinasabi ni Senator Tulfo, it will be scheduled on Monday. So we'll find out tomorrow talaga, Ses, kung ano yung mangyayari sa Senado.
Ang Senate staff ba naguguluhan or sinusundan ba nila ang bagong mayorya? Dahil kanina, di ba, dun sa pag-call ng roll, ayaw gawin nung secretary nung simula. Nung 3 p.m., ang nakita natin na kumausap sa minority, yung old minority, sila Senator Tito Soto, Risa, Bam, nakita natin kausap nila si then Senate Secretary Jose Luis Montales na may binigay sa kanilang document na nakalagay doon. It was from Senator Cayetano na dinedeclare na mag-adjourn sinidie na ang Senado, and they will resume session by July 27. Pero nung nagkaroon ng reorganization sa Senado, ang bumalik na Senate Secretary si Attorney Renato Bantug. So may adjustment again sa staff, sa mga personnel. Pero again, naglabas nga ng advisory naman si Senator Cayetano na sinasabing operating pa rin daw siya and functioning daw siya as Senate President. So may orders din siya na yung mga necessary na mga personnel nga sa preparasyon na kinakailangan, from the security to the logistics, especially sa Blue Ribbon Committee hearing tomorrow, he is expecting yung cooperation ng mga ito. So again, yung dynamics talaga, we're yet to see how different schools of thoughts will be interpreting what is happening, and kung magkakaroon man ng intermediaries or kung meron mang papagitna sa dalawang nangyayari ngayon,
I guess we'll find out sa mga susunod na araw.
Oo, parang marahil naguguluhan yung staff. Sino ba ang susundin nila?
And usually, since currently yung leadership ay under Senate President Pro Tempore Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, tulad hindi pa siya SP kasi hindi pa nakukuha yung needed majority number talaga ng 13 senators. So pro tempore pa lang siya. Pero according to Senate rules, ang nasabi Senator Mig Zubiri din na ngayon ay chairman ng Senate Committee on Rules, acting as presiding or acting president or Senate President, itong si Senator Gatchalian. And usually, nagkakaroon na ng reorganization on that part na ito na ang majority. So, ito na, kung for example, yung sa reorganization, yung dibs ng committees manggagaling na sa kanila and other necessary legislative na matters or administrative matters. So,
Tama.
yun
dapat
talaga
sila
ang isa pa
sundan. Sila ang sundan. Hindi yung dati.
Well, yung order of business, it should be done that way. Kaya
Yes.
may division ang minority block and ang majority block. Kaya nagkakaroon lagi ng, for example, yung isang senador part ng minority block, they're usually there to also either to contest, to challenge. Same goes din sa majority. May ganun talaga siya, yung weighing of things, yung pagbabalanse.
Right.
Pero we'll see how things on the administrative side will bear fruit siguro sa pagbabago na ng liderato sa mga
Alright.
susunod na linggo and sa second
Tomorrow, actually.
regular session.
Tomorrow, because Senator Cayetano is insisting that the hearing be held kahit wala na dyan sa schedule because they're
Yes.
following the new majority. Now, back to Senator Chis Escudero's appearance earlier in the plenary. Ano ang mood and sa tingin mo, Merrimon, ito'y alam na ng expected na ito ng mga senador?
Ang sabi kanina ni Senator Erwin Tulfo, it was surprising for them. Ang sabi pa nga ni Senator Erwin, inihahanda niya na raw sasabihin niya sa media kung walang sumipot na kahit na sinong mga senador or kung hindi nga magpapakita si Senator Chis kasi may info or may message or may communication from Senator Escudero kahapon na pupunta raw siya. Pero kanina, nung magsisimula na yung session, hindi raw nila nakikita. So, it took them by surprise na pumasok ng session hall si Senator Chis Escudero and they warmly welcomed the senator. Umupo siya doon sa right side facing the rostrum. Ngayon, nag-aalay na siya sa new majority. Though hindi naman daw ito usapang politika, pero it's more on yung pagrespeto niya raw sa Senado, sa taong bayan, lalong-lalo sa konstitusyon at yung mandato raw ng trabaho nila. And mahaba-haba nga lang yung naging pag-uusap daw dito, sabi ni Senator Kiko Pangilinan, pero all is well and they hope that everything ends well. Let's listen into a part of Senator Kiko Pangilinan's statement.
Okay. Now to the impeachment.
How did you convince Senator Chis po?
Mahabang proseso, but thankfully he agreed.
Thank you, sir. How do you feel lang, sir?
A relief for the Senate,
Apa.
and we hope that this is fresh start. Sen Win is most deserving and most qualified.
Now, Merrimon, ano ang schedule sa impeachment trial? May pagbabago ba?
Nako, Ses, yan yung sinasabi kanina sa live stream ni Senator Cayetano na parang mapapatagal pa raw yung impeachment dahil nga, for example, kung may aayusin sa Senate rules o sa proceedings ito sa impeachment trials, kailangan ito ng public days for publication. Kasi we have to go back again sa technicalities pero may gusto sila ayusin doon na around Section 2 ng Senate Rules on Impeachment Proceedings. So yung huli nating nakita na calendar, June 18 to 30 pre-trial period yan. July 6 ang target date ng start ng impeachment trial. Pero since nagkaroon ng reorganization, we're yet to see if another calendar will be issued, yung final calendar na talaga. Lalo't ang importante rin dito, yung magsisilbing presiding officer. Ang huling nasabi ng new majority dyan, para pag-uusapan daw nila ito, pagpaplansyahin daw nila ito, pero lumalabas na kailangan nilang magtalaga ng magsisilbing presiding officer. Kasi nga, technically hindi pa elected talaga as Senate President si Senator Gatchalian.
All right. We thank you for that. Mobile journalist Merrimon Reyes reporting to us live from the Senate. This is a big story on One News, and coming up is President Marcos's call to senators hours before the shakeup there.
Get back to work. Get back to work because it's important. Ang dami natin kailangan gawin. Look, I'm afraid whatever, all these events that we have been witnessing has thrown the Senate and its leadership into the whole Senate into disarray.
The 69th session of the Senate in the first regular session of the 20th Congress is hereby called to order. With 12 senators present, the chair declares a quorum.
So wala pong ground para magkaroon ng acting president. This is an illegal coup d'etat na may kasamang pagbabasura ng ating konstitusyon.
The Senate has been adjourned and unable to resume session for the past 2 days, placing us on the brink of constitutional violation had we not convened today. The quorum of 12 is based on majority of 22 senators, over whom jurisdiction Avellino versus Cuenco, that an absolute majority of 12 out of the 23 members can constitute a constitutional majority of the Senate for quorum purposes, and with precedent, specifically the May 5, 2015 session, where the quorum was based on 17 available senators, with 7 others beyond the Senate's coercive jurisdiction.
Ngayon, meron tayong functioning Senate na.
Apa.
Ang gusto namin, bumalik na sa trabaho. Hindi tayo pwedeng ganito for the rest of our lives.
Welcome back. Again, the new majority says Alan Peter Cayetano is out as Senate President. But the bloc can't push Senator Sherwin Gatchalian to the finish line just yet. That's because they only have 12 of 13 votes needed to formally elect Gatchalian as SP. For now, he will be Senate President pro tempore. In a joint statement, the new majority expressed gratitude to Senator Chis Escudero for his commitment to the country, the Senate, and the Constitution. Recall that Escudero was ousted in a coup in September last year and was replaced by Senator Tito Soto. Escudero later on backed Cayetano when he instigated a coup against Soto 3 weeks ago. The new majority emphasizes the work of the Senate cannot be hampered by disagreements or uncertainty. The people, they say, deserve a Senate that puts service above politics. Now for Senator Loren Legarda, now part of the minority, chaos at the upper chamber.
Get back to work. Get back to work because it's important. Ang dami natin kailangan gawin. Hindi ko nga maintindihan. Nag-congressman naman ako, nag-senador din ako. Ang rules dyan, bago ka mag-cancel more, you cancel a session. And there has to be a very good reason for canceling a session. I'm afraid whatever, all these events that we have been witnessing has thrown the Senate and its leadership the whole Senate into disarray. It has discredited the leadership, and it has stopped the essential business of legislation in government. The two other departments continue to work. The executive continues to work. The judiciary continues to work. Why does the legislature decide to stop working? I don't understand that. We are trying to achieve some form of stability so that people can get on with their lives, so that people can count on the assistance of government during this time of an emergency. And we cannot do that if the legislature decides to stay at home and have a vacation.
Meantime, the Sandigan Bayan has upheld the travel ban on the former speaker, while an ex-DPWH chief also tagged in the flood scam is now in private hospital. At the lower house, another congressman is sanctioned while the anti-political dynasty bill inches closer to passage. Here is a wrap of the day's other headlines.
Civil society group Tindig Pilipinas has filed an obstruction of justice complaint before the Office of the Ombudsman. That's against Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano, Senator Robin Padilla, and Acting Senate Sergeant-at-Arms Mau Aplaska. The complaint is linked to their alleged roles in blocking the arrest of Senator Bato de la Rosa inside the Senate on May 13 and 14. De la Rosa is facing an arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court as an alleged co-perpetrator of former President Duterte in the war on drugs. Meantime, the Sandigan Bayan has denied former Speaker Martin Romualdez's bid to lift the precautionary hold departure order against him and evade arrest and prosecution. These include Romualdez's failure to submit medical documents supporting his planned trip and the absence of a detailed travel itinerary. The travel ban order on the former Speaker is tied to an ombudsman probe into his alleged involvement in the flood control scandal. As for former Public Works Secretary Manuel Bonoan, he moved from the PNP General Hospital. Bonoan's motion for hospital arrest, but allowed him to remain under CIDG custody while confined. The House has ordered Quezon City Congressman Bong Suntay to apologize and conduct community service for his lewd remarks against actress Ann Curtis. The Ethics and Privileges panel said Suntay violated the Code of Conduct of the House and standards expected of public officials. 263 lawmakers affirmed the panel's findings, 8 opposed and 7 abstained. Still in the House, the anti-political dynasty bill hurdles third and final reading. 267 lawmakers backed House Bill 8389, 20 opposed, and 7 abstained. The lower chamber's proposal prohibits dynasties up to the second degree of consanguinity from seeking elective posts within the same jurisdiction. Lanao del Sur Congressman Zia Alonto Adyong says the measure struck a careful balance, but Akbayan Party List Congressman Chel Jokno finds this version weak.
Bakit sa ilalim nitong panukala, pwede pa rin na sa isang pamilya may presidente, senador, congressperson, governor at mayor. To my distinguished colleagues, with all due respect, huwag na po tayo maglokohan. Ang nakasulat sa papel ay anti-dynasty, pero ang totoo, ito po ay isang pro-dynasty bill.
And President Marcos has appointed former Taguig City Mayor Lino Cayetano as the new general manager of state-run PTV4. Presidential Communications Office Secretary Dave Gomez made the announcement in a statement. He said Cayetano brings experience from the media, private and public sectors. Gomez added that Cayetano's experience could help lead PTV4 in an evolving multimedia landscape. Lino replaces Acting General Manager Malucho Afagar, who has led PTV4 in an interim capacity since August 2025. Lino Cayetano is the brother of Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano. They are reportedly estranged. Kapatid Amy Atienza, we are One News.
Now on a much lighter note, First Pacific Chairman and CEO Manuel V. Pangilinan reflected on recovery, resilience, and the company's 45-year journey. Pangilinan looked back at First Pacific's early years, crediting its growth to bold decisions, risk-taking, and the dedication of employees. He also expressed optimism about the group's future and its leadership transition. Drawing a parallel to his recent knee surgery, the business tycoon joked that every small step now feels like a major achievement. This experience, he said, is a reminder that no matter how successful a person becomes, one's knees remain completely unimpressed. Pangilinan added that much like business growth, recovery requires patience, perseverance, and resilience. And what a day it has been for Philippine politics, so time to breathe. All of us need to breathe with this story. Our big picture tonight, Charmaine, Vanessa, and Melanie. And no, they're not celebrities or social media influencers, but an orange, a fly, and an avocado. These unlikely characters are now online hits thanks to viral TikTok skits. It started with an orange jokingly complaining about being named after its color. Yes, the orange talks and wants to go by a more creative tag like Charmaine. Tawagin na lang daw siyang Charmaine. Another character in the viral clip was very supportive, saying the new name should even be notarized. Then came Vanessa, a fly that took its cue from Charmaine and demanded a better moniker. The trend has since taken off on social media. One mall in Legazpi even promoted oranges in its fresh produce section as Charmaines, calling them certified and notarized. Finally, there's the avocado called Melanie. The character questioned why people automatically assumed it is an attorney just because the Filipino word for lawyer, abogado, sounds like avocado. Random playful content that makes us smile and even laugh amid the tough times. So why not? We all need something to get us through each day. That's a big story this midweek. I'm Ces Oreña Drilon. Kapatid, we are One News, your side all the time. Enjoy the rest of your evening.